Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing is an authorized brother dealer and repairs all brands of machines. Mid-South Sewing, known for their many fabrics, classes, and individual instructions. Classes on sewing and embroidery machines, software, sergers, and quilting. Mid-South Sewing, Knoxville and Murfreesboro.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville. nexttoknox.com. And by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations, knoxvilleflowerpot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Coming up on Tennessee Life, from small-town roots to television shows and stages all over the nation, Leanne Morgan is making people laugh. To her, real life is where you get the best comedy.
And I can just say God had his hand on me and put these people in my path. I mean, because I was a mom, you know, in a school parking lot half the time with a bunch of babies in the back of a car.
And we explore the southern seasonal flavors packed into Dale's Fried Pies.
They are a regional, sort of local food that a lot of people in the South ate growing up, so there's a lot of nostalgia around it.
Lather up for a Tennessee Green Clean. Natural oils and herbs make up the soap recipes at Rainwater Farm. Those stories coming up on Tennessee Life.
Thanks for joining us for Tennessee Life. I'm Vicki Lawson. When it comes to making people laugh, Leanne Morgan thinks there's nothing funnier than her own real-life stories about marriage and motherhood. Leanne has told these personal tales on stages around the country, comedy festivals, and on national television. Between her busy performance schedule and radio programs, we caught up with Leanne Morgan when she was back home in Tennessee. And before I knew it, she was tickling my funny bone. Leanne, thanks so much for coming in today and sharing your story from small-town Tennessee girl to comedian on stage.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, you angel.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I want you to tell us a little bit about growing up in Tennessee.
Well, I was born and raised in Middle Tennessee in a farm community called Adams. It's 500 people on the Kentucky-Tennessee border.
Were you a funny little girl, and did you come from a funny, comedic type family?
If this had been my living room, I would have been up on that, maybe put a slip on my head to try to look like Cher and do a Sonny and Cher routine. I mean, I was that kind of ham kid. And my sister, I have one sister, she's older, and she's very quiet and very reserved and was more like a grown woman when she was little. And she was more like my mom, and my mom has been more like my partner in crime. And my mama loves comedy and Hollywood and raised me on Saturday Night Live, which was terrible because it was filthy, and my dad would get so mad. But and let me say, my dad's a storyteller, very funny. Everybody loves to be around him. But my mom is more of the dazzler, and she loved Carol Burnett and all those all sitcoms, and raised me on those. And we would sit and watch them together. But if she went to a Tupperware party, she was like had the stage, and everybody thought she was hilarious. Her name is Lucille, and she's still very funny.
So fast forward to married life and moving around quite a bit, and then motherhood took priority. What did you do to supplement your family income at that time?
My husband was in the mobile home industry in Bean Station, Tennessee. He sold used mobile homes and moved me up there. And I know I'm from farming, but I'm not from that rural of an area. And so when he had his own business, he was 27 years old, I was 26. I'd had my first baby, and I wanted to stay home with him. And so I started selling jewelry, like Tupperware, in people's houses. And that's how we needed money. And so I found out that I was funny doing that. And then it was just a weird bunch of things that happened that people started realizing how funny, that they thought I was funny, and I started asking me to speak at big things for the jewelry company and then in my community in Morristown, Tennessee. It was then that people started saying, would you like to go and do 20 minutes for the lawyers that do land and title work at the Grove Park Inn? And so I would go and do that, and started making a little bit of money. I didn't know how much to charge or anything, and my husband would keep the kids. And so I've been able to do comedy and, you know, make a living. Even though I don't have to, my husband has taken care of me. I've been able to do a lot of wonderful things and skip a lot of yucky things in comedy because I've got him tending to me, and I didn't have to make the living.
Did you develop your own act, or did you take it mostly from your experiences with your babies, as you call them?
I'm more of a storyteller, and I'm not an observational, like Jerry Seinfeld look at a cotton ball and write a joke about it. I came up telling stories about my kids playing t-ball and what happened on the t-ball field, or how I've tried to find a pair of jeans that fit me that is not going to show my backside. I tell stories about things that have happened in my life, and so my comedy is more like a Bill Cosby, in that, you know, I just tell stories, and I love watching human behavior. And so to me, my comedy comes from human behavior in my household.
Tell me something about those stories. What do you think are your favorite subjects, or the subjects that have gotten you the most material or the most laugh?
My husband. My husband is an odd bird, and he would say I was odd, and I know I am. But my husband and I probably are not really the most compatible people on this earth. He stalked me. I'll just tell you, Vicki, he stalked me when we were at UT because he was in love with me, and I was a looker. And before I lost my bloom, and he was crazy about me and was getting an MBA and is brilliant and is like very math oriented and very analytical and very detailed person. And who better to marry than a wild nut job like me, who does not take any detail, who, you know, rides the roads with a bunch of kids in the back and dirty diapers. I mean, it couldn't have been more ill-fated. But because of that, and we've had a wonderful marriage, but because of that, our differences have given me a lot of material.
Would you share, if just out of the blue, share a couple of the stories, something about your husband, something about your babies that you use in your comedy routine?
The one story people always want me to tell is my baby boy, when we were in Morristown, we put him in T-ball. We didn't ask him if he wanted to go to T-ball. We just put him in it because everybody feels pressure to get your baby to learn how to play a sport. So anyway, we put him in T-ball. And there was one day, it was so hot, and I remember how hot it was, and I had the girls with me, and Lord, they were babies, and he was out in a fetal position, you know, on the glove, and he looked up and he went, water. So I had to take a water bottle out there. Well, I sent it by Maggie, who was 2.5 at the time, and the middle child. She went running out to the field with this water bottle, and she stopped and got this glazed look over her eyes, pulled her little panties to the side, and pooped in the T-ball field. Where was their daddy? Out selling a trailer somewhere. And then my baby child was 13 months old, was rummaging through a woman's purse in the bleachers. I'm not kidding, I was going, get out of her purse, Tess. So then I had to run out on that field and get a stick and flick that doo-doo out into the woods so another child wouldn't step on it and think it was a milk dud. So Charlie would not play sports for several years because of that trauma. Until I think when we had moved to San Antonio, my husband thought, we'll put him in Pop Warner football. That'll be fun at 152 degrees in South Texas. So then that's when the next time he played sports, because I mean, he was traumatized by it. It was awful. And he never played baseball again.
So often you find comedians that use humor by using vulgar language. You have never done that.
I got started in comedy professionally when my baby child was a year old. So I had 3 children, and I had gotten back into church and was raising my family. And as a mother, I mean, I just could not imagine saying something that I didn't want my children to ever say. And I didn't want to be a bad example for them, and I didn't want to be a bad example for other people's children. And it just guided me that and how I wrote and how I thought. And it's not that I'm prudish. I had somebody a long time ago that's been very successful in this business, and he said, Leanne, if you're clean, you can do anything. You can do churches, you can do comedy clubs, you can do corporate things, you can make more money. If you're dirty, you can't clean dirty up. You can dirty clean up if you had to, but you can't do the opposite. And it made a lot of sense to me. I didn't want to be known as that because when you are a dirty comic or a X-rated or R-rated, all you can do is comedy clubs, really. I mean, you can go on to HBO and venues like that, but that just never appealed to me. I didn't want to go that route.
You've always kept your Southern roots. You've always kept that in your routine. Is Tennessee where you want to keep home, your home base, no matter where comedy might take you?
I love East Tennessee. I always used to think I want to move back to Nashville in Middle Tennessee, but I don't now. I mean, I love it in Nashville, it's nifty and all that, but I love the mountains, and I love where I've raised my children, and it's so much sweeter here. I'd much rather live here. I don't think I ever want to live anywhere else.
You can poke humor so much at yourself and talk about as you have aged and you have gone through the process and talk things, your hair, your weight, and all those things, and you can make fun of them. I think that makes you so genuine, and you have been truly, you're as friendly and as genuine as you are on when you do your performances, and I think that's remarkable.
I think I've had so much opportunity in television, that kind of thing, because I am different, because I am unique, because I am Southern, I am country, and I'm not ashamed of it. And they tell me in LA, you're organic, you're real, you know. But I'm authentic. I don't put on any airs. I'm too tired, you know. When you got a bunch of children, I mean, I can't fake this accent, you know.
Well, Leanne, thanks for tickling our funny bones today and for sharing your funny Tennessee life. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next on Tennessee Life, cucumber, mint, and grits are in some of the recipes, but you don't eat this Tennessee product. The story behind the soap bars at Rainwater Farm. A Southern treat from Grandma's Kitchen comes to you. We'll show you the mouth-watering flavors in Dale's fried pies.
Take a bite of Dale's crispy Southern treats and they just might take your mind and your taste buds back to your grandma's kitchen, where you learn more about the seasonal flavors in Dale's fried pies and why keeping it simple has been a key ingredient for success.
My name is Dale Mackey, and I just opened up Dale's Fried Pies, which is a mobile pie stand selling fried pies of all different kinds.
For a long time, I've wanted to do sort of a creative food business of my own. And I've always liked food businesses that really perfect one type of food and do it really well. And fried pies were interesting to me, one, because they are a regional sort of local food that a lot of people in the South ate growing up. So there's a lot of nostalgia around it. People have really good memories of them. Of course, they're also delicious. But also because, you know, there's so much room for creativity within them because you can fill them with basically whatever you want. So that kind of combination of things made me interested in them, and then I started cooking them a lot and got really good at it and thought I'd try to make it into a business. I've always enjoyed cooking. I've always enjoyed baking of all different kinds. You know, ever since I was a little kid, my mom really loved to cook as well, and I would, you know, watch her cook, and she made a lot of pies too. And my godmother, who sort of took care of me when I was a little kid instead of me going to daycare, is from Kentucky, and so she would cook a lot of Southern food. I didn't really necessarily realize it was Southern food until I moved to the South, and then I started saying, oh, this is exactly what my godmother made me when I was a little kid. And so I really like whenever I'm in a place to try to, you know, understand the food traditions and what, you know, what kind of food is available and what kind of food people grew up eating. So it's sort of a a natural thing.
It seems like every other person that I sell a pie to, their mom or their grandma made fried pies for them when they were little. A lot of people have really positive memories attached to them. So people seem to really, really enjoy them and be really intrigued about it.
I wanted to do a mobile pie stand because to open up a full brick and mortar restaurant when you've never done that before is quite a large undertaking, and I didn't really have the experience or the capital to do that. So I thought I would start small, sort of see how it went, see where it went and what kind of response I got, and go from there. I considered buying just a regular, outfitted food truck. But again, I really wanted to start as small as possible. I said, what is, the least amount of money really that I can put in and start a business so that, I'm kind of free to do what I want. I'm not hampered by tons of debt right from the beginning. So I found online little plans to make a kids lemonade stand. And so we just took those plans and scaled them up basically to adult size and did some modifications and built what is basically an adult size sort of lemonade stand looking thing, and did some modifications so that I could fry the pies on site on the stand or just, prepare them in a different kitchen and sell them. I've always really enjoyed making things, and I've always really enjoyed, thinking about how things will look. And that was a big fun part about starting this off, is sort of what feel did I want it to have. And I really wanted it to have the feel of like a roadside stand where, you're passing by and you see boiled peanuts or apples, things like that. Well, to make a fried pie, you basically start with pie dough. So I make my own pie dough. You roll it out into a little sort of circle, and then whatever kind of filling you want to use, you put it in there and crimp it shut, and then it's deep fried. So there is a lot of variation in terms of what you can put in the pie. The traditional ones are apple and peach. Those are the ones that most people ask for most of the time. I don't have peach in the wintertime because there aren't good peaches available. You can dry peaches and do it that way, and that's a good way to do it. But I really like to have the pie flavors follow the season. So what's available, what's good, just tastes better in a pie. So in the summertime, there's a lot more sort of berry pies. There's a lot more, fresh fruit pies. Whereas then in the wintertime, I transition more to, I do a lot of sweet potatoes. There's a lot of that kind of thing available. A lot of pumpkins, squashes, things that are available then. And in the wintertime, dried apple pies from the fall. So I do try to, whenever possible, get food that's local or regional. And then above all, try to sort of follow the seasons. One, because that's what people want to eat during the season, and two, it's just what tastes better because it's fresher and more available. When I was a little kid, whenever my mom would be cooking dinner, I would like to be around her in the kitchen, but I obviously, I couldn't be chopping up vegetables or doing anything that was dangerous like that. So we had a little step stool that had 2 little steps on it, and I would take pieces of American cheese and I would cut them up into little squares, and I would sit at the little step stool, and I would make my mom and sister buy cheese from me at my little cheese stand. And I had actually forgotten about that until last month. I was sitting at the pie stand and I was thinking, I'm actually doing my dream that I had when I was a little kid, which was to have a little food stand. And so that was kind of fun.
Soap is usually just one of those things we pick up along with our groceries without giving it much thought, but a gift of handmade soap changed the way a Maryville, Tennessee woman thought about getting clean. After Colette Souder tried a handmade soap bar versus her typical store-bought one, she says she was hooked on the natural clean. So she started making her own soap and launched Rainwater Farm.
My motto is, if we take care of ourselves, the environment will take care of itself. The reason we moved to East Tennessee is my husband always had a desire to be an organic gardener. And so we moved here, and he has an acre garden in the back and has always grown our vegetables organically. So we have always been green that way, but I did not realize that the products we used on our skin were as important as what we put in our body. This soap business has been a gift to me, and it's not fair just to keep it to myself. I want to spread the good news. My name is Colette Souter. I am the owner of Rainwater Farm, a soap making business that has been around for now 24 years. And we make handmade soap, liquid soap, balms, healing salve, lip balms, laundry soap, and a host of other products. The name Rainwater Farm came because I used rainwater in the soap. You want to use a soft water, and rainwater is the best water to use. It just struck me as something natural and good. And I still have rain barrels outside collecting my water for my soap. About 25 years ago, we had some guests come to our house. It was a family, and as a parting gift, she left 3 bars of her homemade soap. And it was strange, I thought. It was rose petal, but because we were a thrifty family, I wasn't going to throw it away. So I put 1 bar in the shower my husband used. I put 1 bar in my shower, and we ended up fighting over the 3rd bar. But it took me 1 use of that soap to make me realize I'm never going back to Dial, which is what I always used. The difference when I used this soap was that my skin did not get dried out. I did not feel like I had a film on my skin. My skin felt replenished and rejuvenated versus depleted. And it has gotten to the point where when I travel, I always bring my own soap everywhere. It's a very green soap that is good for people primarily, and then it's good for the environment. I started researching soap making, and back then there was not anything on it, almost. Now you find it, there's lots of books, but back then there was nothing. But I read everything I could find, and I kept calling this woman, asking her questions. And I didn't realize how vague she was being, but I just kept asking questions, and for a year I studied it. Finally, one day when I called her, she just blurted out with this, "Okay, my husband said I could give you the recipe." And I was shocked, and I thought, oh, I didn't realize she was holding back on me. But she did give me the recipe because soap makers traditionally keep everything secret. This has been from 500 years ago. And she was just keeping that tradition up because nobody wants to give up their recipe. Within 6 months of making my first batch, I had my first sale, and it started off that way, and it's probably grown, well, I'm really not sure how much it's grown, except I make probably now 15,000 bars a year, plus all my other products. I have over 90 labels that I have to make sure I have product for these labels, and it's just grown. My first venture into making my own recipes, branching off from this basic recipe that I was given, was making my camper soap. And I called it camper soap because when you go camping, you need to repel mosquitoes and ticks and black flies or whatever you're dealing with. In that soap is lemongrass, eucalyptus, and geranium oils. And the combination works wonderfully to repel mosquitoes. I have a soap, cucumber and grits, and it exfoliates with Southern Comfort is how I say it, and Mass General Store sells so much of this because of the name. People come through and they want a Tennessee product, and here it is, made in Maryville, and it has that great Southern flavor to it. I've grown a lot since I started. I remember the first year when I was doing my taxes, I think I sold $25 worth of soap the first year, and I am up to probably $100,000 a year. It's a small business, and I am not going to be a Fortune 500 business very soon, but it doesn't matter. I do love what I'm doing, and it's certainly worth it.
We hope you've had fun exploring old-fashioned soap making, homemade pies with Dale, and that you got to laugh along with Leanne Morgan. Just some of the things that make up our great Tennessee life. I'm Vicki Lawson. See you next time.
Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing is an authorized brother dealer and repairs all brands of machines. Mid-South Sewing, known for their many fabrics, classes, and individual instructions. Classes on sewing and embroidery machines, software, sergers, and quilting. Mid-South Sewing, Knoxville and Murfreesboro.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville. nexttonewknox.com, and by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations, knoxvilleflowerpot.com, and by viewers like you. Thank you. A DVD of this program is available by visiting easttennesseepbs.org.